You're listening to today's inspirational message on the Proverbs with Kurt Bjorklund.
Proverbs 17 has this verse in verse 3 that says, "The crucible is for silver, the furnace is for gold, and the Lord tests the hearts," speaking about God's refining process in our lives. And today I want to just look at some of the priorities that God wants to refine or establish. Verse 6 says this, "Grandchildren are the crown of the ages, and the glory of their children is their fathers." And that may seem like that isn't all that significant, but when you see what comes next, it actually highlights something that's very important. Verse 7, "Fine speech is not becoming a fool, still less is false speech of a prince." So why is the prince and the family here juxtaposed verse by verse? And I would suggest that this is pointing to this reality that when a family is right, a society thrives. And when a politician or a civil leader, a governmental leader is wrong, then society flounders. And a family is something that thrives when there's intergenerational love and stability. And so that is something that is to be prioritized, not taken for granted, and to have societal leaders that are honest and forthright is also important. And how do we build these up? Verses 11 through 14. "An evil man seeks only rebellion, and a cruel messenger will be sent against him. Let a man met of a she-bear robbed of her cubs rather than a fool in his folly. If anyone returns evil for good, evil will not depart from his house, and the beginning of strife is like letting out water, so quit before a quarrel breaks out." And what this means is that families and societies are built by people in a sense. And if you and I rebel against authority, which is this idea of rebellion, verse 11, then there will be a harsh taskmaster to bring about correction. A cruel messenger will be sent against them. In the Bible, there is something to authority that our modern culture likes to resist. That is saying that there is authority in society and in culture that's important to give proper respect to. That doesn't mean a blind loyalty or not having any kind of discretion, but what it means is saying, I will not simply rebel against what's above me just because I can and because my society is that way. And then verse 12, "Let a man met a she-bear robbed of her cubs," basically, rather than a fool in his folly. Foolishness is something that if you and I embrace, then it is worse ultimately than the fury of a mama bear, basically. Verse 13 is the idea of returning evil for good, and the evil will continue. And then verse 14 deals with this, stopping a quarrel before it begins, because if not, you will experience something negative because the evil will continue. And in a way, you may hear this and say, this sounds more like karma than Christianity. And what I want you to see is that God has set in motion certain things where there is a cause and an effect, and that rebellion, foolishness, evil for good, quarreling, all disintegrate the family and disintegrate society. And so prioritize the family unit, and prioritize integrity in civil leadership. And what we will see when we do that is that those priorities will lead to human flourishing. Now, you may say, well, how do I do that today where I am? Well, it certainly has an implication for how you vote. But more than that, it has an implication for saying that the building block of society is really one family by family, relationship by relationship, and that voting, as important as it is, will never overcome the disintegration that takes place when families aren't right. And so the Christian biblical understanding is to prioritize family and to vote with clarity. And these are the perspectives and priorities that God asks us to pursue in Proverbs 17.
Thanks for joining us here today. There's a lot of great content to explore on Orchard Hill Plus and on the Orchard Hill main feed from the weekend. Have a great day.